I would like to present you to an honored female musician who's captured the hearts of many, including mine, when it comes to her blues stylings. If you're a fan of Mary Flower, you definitely are a fan of her. Right now, in front of me, it's Fiona Boyes.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, we're doing great. What time is it right now? Just to let the people know what time we're doing this for you.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning the
Okay.
next day because
Yeah.
Australia is the land of tomorrow, so it's the following day. And I love that you mentioned Mary Flower because she's a friend of mine, and I lived for a year in Portland, Oregon, um, and she's a fabulous guitarist.
Yeah, well, the only reason I remembered her name is because when you have too many uh, artists that you're juggling on a radio show, eventually somebody gets put to the side in the dusty corner, and then you eventually bring it out of the dungeon to actually play and talk and do a whole bunch of things. But Michael Jerome Brown actually mentioned a project that he did with her at one point. He was recording his newest album over in I think it was New York.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I'm glad that you're a fan of hers. There's also another bluesman in the states that you're probably a friend of, Watermelon Slim.
Oh, yes. In fact, Watermelon Slim makes a cameo appearance on my new album, Ramblified,
Okay.
um, playing harmonica. And we've brought him out to Australia to tour.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
we've done some both duo gigs, and he's also played with my band here in Australia, the Fortune Tellers. Yeah, great player and a
Now
character.
he loves Acadians apparently because he came twice, 2 years in a row over at the Fredericton, what used to be known as the Harvest uh, Jazz and Blues
Hmm.
Festival, but they changed it to just, uh, well, I just forgot the name. Fredericton Harvest. They just took everything and brought it down just to the word harvest,
Hmm.
because they have musical talents from anything but just jazz and blues. So they've made it a melting pot, if you will. You played earlier, with Watermelon Slim, and I can't find it anywhere. And I know I have it in one of my CDs, but it was, I think it was Barrel House Blues.
It was the Barrel House Funeral. It was a
The,
song that I wrote about a real incident. I read it in a newspaper on one of my American tours, and it was a story about in the deep South where a preacher gets beaten up at a funeral that he's conducting
oof.
because he sort of said that that the guy he was burying was, a backslider and a drinker and a sinner, and that he was going to hell, and so were all the mourners as well. And the mourners apparently were not happy about this, so they beat him up. Anyway, it was in the newspaper, so I wrote a song about it, and it's and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have sort of like a bit of a the preacher ranting and preaching at the beginning of the song, and I could think of no better person to do a rant than Watermelon Slim. So he has a cameo on that particular song, and yeah, it
Uh,
was
there's
really
no other character to actually say from the book of Ecclesiastes, and he has that particular character for it. To think
it's
that the
perfect.
guy actually started off his career as a trucker, broke his back, started learning the guitar, and then there he is. So a
Yeah,
slider and harmonica player extraordinaire. Uh, Now, your newest album is Ramblified.
that's right. That Ramplified. So it's about it's mostly like half solo performances and the other half um, kind of impromptu arrangements with me and my longtime drummer, Mark Grundon playing drums and percussion, with a couple of outliers, like the one track that Watermelon Slim plays on. But it was really fun. It was really recorded, because I could get back into the studio. The lockdowns during the pandemic were very strict here in Australia, and I couldn't get back to my hometown where my band was, for quite some time. And Mark, in particular, my drummer, is so much fun in the studio because he's a very good hand percussionist as well as a regular drum kit drummer. And so every now and again, I would say, I just hear this sound, and he would make crazy bits of percussion to make the sounds. So he had like rubbish tin lids that he drilled holes in and hit with mallets and lumps of chain. And anyway, it was we recorded very quickly in 2 afternoons, and in the studio, and we just were jamming and having a ball. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the pandemic for Australia was just insane. You guys had the toughest restrictions that were put into place.
Yeah, we did, and it was that's why we couldn't cross state borders. So I was I grew up and am originally from Melbourne, Victoria, but I was on the wrong side of the state line, so I couldn't get back back there. So and also the other thing was that in 2020 I had almost 4 months of international touring planned, and of course that all went away. And so I was very grateful to finally, last year, one of those bookings that was kindly extended until I could leave the country was last year's Edmonton Blues Festival. So it was one of the first.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing my Edmonton Blues Festival T-shirt right now. Shout out to those folks over there.
Well, I'm glad that you actually made it to Canada, at least during this whole poutine of a mess, as the Quebecers say. So,
well, I hope to get back because I haven't played a lot in Canada, but when I have played, I've been really, really warmly received, and I really appreciate that. And I love the opportunity to play to new audiences and meet the people. So, hopefully I'll get back soon.
no, I don't doubt it. And I'm crossing my fingers that it'll be probably in the Maritimes. That said, the album was composed during the pandemic, or did you start it just before everything went downhill because of it?
Really, the songs were written. I was surprised. The songs were written during the pandemic, and a couple of them I had done some virtual jams with my drummer because we couldn't see each other, but we sent, we did little videos and then put them, combined them and did some virtual jams. So most of the songs are new songs that I had been playing around with. There's a lot of 3-string cigar box, and yeah, I've been having a bit of a love affair with these crazy handmade cigar box instruments, and also I was revisiting on my on a more irregular guitar. I was revisiting some of my classic Chicago licks, and so there's a couple of songs that are actually have been in my repertoire for a long time, but I kind of reworked them. So mostly new songs that I wrote during the lockdowns, with a few, just a 2 or 3 songs that I reworked that were already in my repertoire.
Because I know Ramblified, you gave us 2 versions on it, one at the beginning and one at the end, and then the rest of it is just purposefully laid out to make it a nice blues trek through your own strings. Throughout the whole recording, did you particularly use Any have your guitars specifically just for this recording, or did you use two, three, or four of them?
Well, I have. Once upon a time, I only had a few guitars. I had one electric, one acoustic, and a bass, and I thought that's all I need. But I was so wrong. Then over the years, I've got GAS, what they call guitar acquisition syndrome, and so I do like the different textures that different guitars give, and so I have a very much a favourite touring electric guitar, which is an Australian made guitar called a Maton Master Sound. So I played that, but I also got out some instruments that I don't always get a chance to play. I've got a couple of quite rare national Resoelectric instruments. I played one track which is on a baritone, and that's a very rare instrument because National doesn't make production runs of Resoelectric baritones. They've only made two, so it's one of two in the world. And it's got beautiful tones, and then these the two cigar boxes that I'm playing is the Revenant, which is a three-string, very traditional three-string cigar box, and one that my husband built for me during the pandemic, and that's the one that I play the title track on. It's a tenor. It's a four-string cigar
On that.
box, and it also features on the front cover of the album. Yes, it was funny. I wrote the song Ramblified, which I stole the term from Son House, and when he was sort of feeling like he was stuck and wanted to go traveling, he was feeling ramblified. I read that in a biography about Son House, and I thought it was a great word. So I wrote the song, and it's about being stuck somewhere and wanting to be back out on the road. And then the idea of doing an instrumental version of it, I was thinking about my home state, and I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to use the very sparse cigar box as an instrumental, but put some swamp sounds to it, put some nature sounds. And as it turns out, my drummer, Mark, his brother, his job is live on-site sound recordings. He does sound installations. So he made me the recording of a swamp in my home state. So the little sounds of the creatures and the birds and everything is a little. I think it goes really nicely with this sort of very eerie solo cigar box.
Well, it does actually. It's one of the few tunes in there that are quite enjoyable. Actually, for me, every single tune that you've made is enjoyable. I mean, there's some tunes in there you show your cheekiness, and then you go back to being semi-serious without overly being so, and it's a nice blues cocktail. The whole album plays like a blues cocktail.
I'm so glad you say that, because it's someone else said that it's well, I always like the idea of an album as a body of work. So quite often I just record songs, but when it comes to putting the album together, I like to think about the order and hopefully take the listener on a journey. So it starts out very bluesy with a tune called Devil Made Me Do It, which is kind of quite, up tempo, I guess like a Mississippi Hills tune. But then over the course of the songs, hopefully there's a flow and there's a story, and then it ends with the ramplified, the instrumental at the end, which by that stage you're sitting on the back porch with a cocktail and it's late afternoon and you're just chilling.
Pretty much. Right now, like many musicians do, when their new album is released, they tend to tour and they tend to present that material either in the first set or in the last set, all depending. But you have quite a lot of music that you have to juggle around. Is there any particular type that you tend to do, not repetitively, but that you actually pick uh, by choice, by personal choice, to actually put down on the list and say, okay, these are always going to figure for this leg of the tour, and
Yes.
then
Well,
new material.
yeah, at the moment, I'm really enjoying all the tunes on Ramblified, and I'm playing most of them live. And at the moment, I've been doing a range of shows. So I've just come back from a major festival in the north of Australia, and I did that as a duo with Mark. So that was very much performing the material the way it is on the album. I also play solo a lot, and then sometimes I have a Hammond trio or a full band where we kind of expand the songs to have Hammond and bass, and sometimes tuba, because my bass player also plays tuba, so you can have a lot of different textures. And yeah, so when I got the full band, I guess we can go from really stripped back percussion, bass, cigar boxes, and be very back porch. And then we can go all the way to having Hammond saxophone, tuba, drums, electric guitar, and kind of do stuff that's a little bit more New Orleansy, or those kind of feels. So, but I love it all. I really enjoy. Most of my performances are my own original material, and I love the emotional investment of playing my own stuff, and most of the songs have stories behind them. So sometimes if you have a more listening audience, or you're playing solo or duo, you can actually in a concert tell people the stories behind the songs, which can be really fun as well. But generally, I love performing live, and I like playing for an audience. So depending on the style of the show, whether it's a festival or whether it's a listening concert, I just like to I love to play, and I love to do my best for an audience.
Now, you started quite at a young age to actually do your musical career. Did you actually start on guitar, or did you start on piano before moving on to guitar?
Well, I actually did play piano when I was very, very little, just for a couple of years. And when I was in early high school, I played clarinet. But I became a huge blues fan when I got to college. So I was about 17, and I I discovered blues, and it changed my life, literally changed my life. But I went to listen to a lot of music, and I went to see as much live music as I could, and but I didn't actually start playing myself. I started playing guitar when I was around 26. So I was actually a late starter, but I was just so in love with the music. I wanted to try playing myself. So I started really playing when I was about my mid-20s, and by the time I was 28, I had the audacity to play my first gig, which I started playing solo acoustic country blues in coffee shops and things like that. Yeah, so. But once I got going, it's just been a beautiful learning journey, and I'm still exploring, and just yeah. But I love. I've never fallen out of love with the blues. I find all the different regional styles and different sort of allied forms of roots music fascinating, and yeah, having a ball.
Having a ball is putting it mildly. It's true. You're excelling because typically, based on the discographies that I've been able to access, you've been coming out with an album almost every 2 years. Your first
Mm,
album was in 2006. You were with the band during that period. And
mm.
then it moved on to Fiona Boyes being full frontal. And then we saw you going up and up and up, and nothing went down. I mean, your scaling was always a little bit better to push that bar higher and then to make it even better and better to the point that we're now to Ramblified and we're still enjoying your music quite uh, um, exuberantly. Uh,
Well, I love, you know, I've kind of mixed it up a little bit in recent times, and as I said, lately I've been kind of on a bit of an exploring journey with these cigar box instruments.
mhm,
But I did start off playing acoustic country blues finger picking, and then I had an opportunity to join a band, and I started playing electric, and um, that first album that I made in America, Lucky 13, was had a big band sort of format with horns, with the Texas horns, and was
mhm,
more swing and New Orleans style. So sometimes I'll make albums that are more acoustic or more swampy or more, I like the idea too that each album is a body of work with its own particular vibe and atmosphere.
mhm.
So it just keeps changing it up. I will confess that I also, during the pandemic, I did write a bunch of songs as a resistance, I think, to the sadness of the world. So I have almost a whole album already written of like party songs, of really
Ooh.
fun, a little bit more Little Child and the Nightcats type of vibe. And at some point, at the moment, I'm really digging in and enjoying the swampy material on Ramblified. But at some point in the next year or two, I'm hoping to record um, an album of really fun party, a big band, I think, with kind of horns and hammered and piano and all that kind of stuff. So, oh yes, you'd think that I would know better, but I keep wanting to write songs and make more music.
No, well, I mean, if you enjoy it, there's no stopping. Period. It's only when you start getting writer's block and
Mm.
that you start spinning out of control and you can't finish these songs and you're having a hard time because life occurs when we're planning things, unfortunately, and then when we have to manage everything that we can while juggling, and hopefully nothing falls and breaks or kills someone. So,
Well, hopefully not, and the blues is always great for helping you lose the blues. And I think that's one of the things that I really value about blues and roots music, because I sort of put, Louisiana swamp pop and rockabilly and soul and all those kind of Zydeco and Cajun, all these
mhm,
allied roots music. I put them all in the grab bag of blues good stuff. But I love the way blues is very good at bringing people together, and I think it's
mhm,
the sort of music that engenders a community. And I certainly feel very lucky that I've played in a lot of different countries and I've made friends all over the world, and that's because of the music. It's I feel that's a really wonderful thing.
it is. I dance. I've been dancing for at least almost 8 years before the pandemic came in,
Yeah.
and then we couldn't dance because
Mm.
even after the restrictions, there were still pockets of resisting viruses and whatnot. So we
Mm.
decided to back off, take our
Mm.
time, do our work at home a bit, and then we started up again.
Yeah,
So my stylings, when I DJ, which I plan to again,
yeah,
outside of the radio show. Usually, if I do a dance gig, I put on blues music. It's very
yeah,
rare that I'll put jazz, but it's typically blues, and it enables people to do all the Latin dances, including blues, slow dancing,
yeah,
which I enjoy immensely. And
yeah.
it's because of the existence of the blues that dancers like me enjoy dancing. Period. It's all encompassing, all enchanting, if you will. It makes for a good feeling when you finish an evening.
Uh,
Um,
it is. It's beautiful. I've got to say that because recently I have been doing quite a lot of solo gigs.
mhm.
What I love is when people dance and you're just playing solo, because that comes out of the a deep tradition in juke joints and things like that, where one person with a guitar has got to make people dance. And I've been lucky enough to play some funky juke joints in Mississippi and Louisiana, and it's an honor. It's great because sometimes people think, oh, maybe I can't dance because there's no drums and there isn't a full band. But if you just if the music is good and you have a good sense of timing and pulse, there's nothing like having dancers dance while you're playing, because you really have to keep your timing good, and it's a wonderful energy exchange. I love it.
That's true. Dancing can be done on pretty much anything except where there's the rhythm is off, where you've got these crazy rhythm changes, which are typically on experimental or on live jazz that's not scripted. Blues
Mm,
can go in that direction, but there's always a baseline that um, you, for example, carry from the beginning to the end, and we know where you're going. There's no
yeah.
sudden turn offs where we're gonna go off the cliff. So, uh,
Well, that's actually the fun thing about a lot of that solo blues style where you're finger picking, because you are trying to be a one person band. It's I really enjoy the stripped back stuff, because you have to really you have to do little bits of bass line and little bits of rhythm guitar and little bits of lead guitar all at the same time. So in some ways it's quite demanding, but it's very satisfying, and yeah, particularly if people dance as well, then it's perfect. It's the cherry on top.
so after everything's said and done, you're still a human being. You're not just a musical instrument. You're not. You're
Yeah.
just not that. As a human being, do you even have time for hobbies?
Um, yeah, we've moved around a lot. I'm currently looking probably to move again in the middle of next year. My husband is an Anglican priest. That's an Episcopalian priest for most North Americans or Canadians, and I play the devil's music. So that way we keep the world in balance. Everybody finds that a little bit confusing, but so yeah, when we're not, I mean, most of the time the preacher, as he's known, my husband, has been on the road with me, but at the moment he's actually got his own gig, so we're not able to tour together right now. He loves to fish, and he also is a woodworker, and he's
Okay.
built and he's built some of my more recent cigar box guitars. So that's his hobby. For me, uh, I guess it's all allied, but as well as playing music and writing, I love to do artwork. So, for example, the cigar box that's on the front cover of the Ramplified album, my husband built the guitar and I painted it. So I've been exploring Mississippi style folk art and making little videos of making little song clips and building a YouTube channel. And so I guess there's creativity in all of us, and it's just at different times where it comes out. So sometimes when I'm at home, I delve into painting or printing or making little videos or walking my dog. I just recently got a dog. I wasn't able to have
Oh,
a
congratulations.
dog for a long time, and so I've got a rescue dog, and she's a marvelous character, but a bit of a handful because she's still young. So yeah, we keep busy.
Oh, okay. Well, devil's music aside, and the fact that you are quite an active person. The last question for this interview is simply this. It's an odd one, but what's your favorite dish?
My favorite dish. Oh goodness me, that is very hard, and it's actually extra hard because um, my husband, the preacher, is a really good cook. I must say that I'm very lucky. I can cook, but I rarely get a chance to cook because he loves cooking so much. I do love seafood, and right now we are living in a part of Australia that is very famous. They have world famous oysters,
Mm.
and yeah, oysters and prawns. Yeah, I'm a seafood gal. I'll say that.
Well, that concludes the interview, Fiona. Thank you so much for taking time from your morning. And
Thank
I
you
really,
so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I love the idea that my music is going out into the world, and I hope that listeners in your neck of the woods in Canada are enjoying the music, and I really appreciate your interest and support.
oh, it was my pleasure, and I hope to see you around in the Maritimes one of these days.
I would love to visit. I've never been. I've never got quite that far. I've only got as far as Montreal and Toronto on that side of Canada, because I lived in Portland, Oregon for a while.
Hmm.
I got more to the other side, the other coast. But yes, I would love to come and visit, and so let's see if we can make that happen.
Oh, well, we'll cross our fingers. Anyways, folks, this was the fabulous interview with our wonderful, warm-hearted artist, Fiona Boyes.
Thank you, and greetings from Australia. Greetings from down under.